Today on the Michael McLean Show, how to beat the shit out of your biggest enemy, imposter syndrome. MichaelMcLean.coach. I am an ex-professional hockey coach, ex-junior championship coach, team owner, turned 8-figure entrepreneur. I shoot these ugly and clunky broken iPhone videos every day. I never take any days off. Weekends make you weak. And I shoot these videos and send them to your email box every day at 5:59 a.m. If I'm your cup of whiskey, there's a chance I might not be. Just sign up at michaelmclean.coach. Nothing to buy. I'll send you a different video every morning at 6 a.m. Marketing, money, happiness, mental toughness, you name it, what's going on in my world, anything that I can do to help transform yours, michaelmclean.coach. So my wife Krista and I the other night watched the Netflix documentary on Lewis Capaldi. And no, I don't recommend that you spend an hour and a half or 2 hours watching it. It's not worth you watching. I did the heavy lifting for you. But even though it was a lousy documentary, I love what I learned and what I was reminded of, which is that we all face the same enemy within. Every single entrepreneur, every small business person, you and me, we're all the same. Famous, not famous, rich, poor, mothers, husbands, sons, daughters, Americans, Canadians, Australians. We all face the same brutal enemy within. And that enemy is imposter syndrome. And nobody likes to talk about this. They've given it that fancy name. But all my life, I have trained myself and literally dedicated my life every day, 1 hour to 3 hours, reading, writing, listening to podcasts, you name it, but mostly reading, to combat what I call, and I have for the last 30 years, the rubber band effect of life. I don't call it imposter syndrome, but the fake gurus, that's their new thing, is the imposter. But let me give it to you straight, okay? Everybody is a rubber band. Everybody has a rubber band in terms of your self-image, in terms of your self-esteem. And the more you achieve, the better you do, whether it's for a week, a month, a year, whether it's losing weight or improving your marriage or getting in better shape or starting to write copy or improving your marketing, or a big one, making more money. Everybody has the rubber band snapback effect. That's the imposter syndrome. And what was fascinating about the Netflix show on Lewis is the entire thing is about him battling the thermostat versus thermometer, I call it. That's what I teach my mastermind guys. Your self-image, what you think of yourself, what you think other people think about you, okay? Your self-respect, your self-esteem, your self-image. You can either have a thermostat, okay, or a thermometer. If you have a thermostat, you choose what level you make it, hot or cold. If you want to live your life at 91 degrees, you live your life at 91 degrees. You're in 100% control. In other words, you decide how you feel about yourself and how you see yourself. A badass who's in control of their life, living life and doing business on their own terms, is always a thermostat. I'm not feeling good today, but I can turn it up with a walk. I can read something positive. I can pray. I can journal. You're 100% in control of your life. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to help you. Nobody's coming to fix you. You're a thermostat. You want to rock and roll at 80, you rock and roll at 80 degrees. You want to rock and roll at 98, you rock and roll at 98. You're in 100% control of how you feel and see yourself. Now, if you're a thermometer, which 99% of the normies are, every day is different, right? You watch the news, I don't feel good. You watch politics, I don't feel good. The weather isn't good, I don't feel good. I'm not on my game today. You hang out with toxic people, you drink alcohol, you eat the wrong foods, you don't read, you don't pray, you don't walk. You're a thermometer, right? Something good happens, you feel good for a minute. You scroll your phone, you get a shot of dopamine, it lasts for 10 seconds, back into depression, back into anxiety, back into worry, back into unhappiness. So that's the life of hoping that somebody's coming to save you, hoping that somebody has the solution. That's the life as a thermostat. If it's sunny and all your ducks are in order, you might be happy that day for a while. But most of the time, you're just at the whim of society, the economy, the weather. You're not in control. So watching Lewis Capaldi here, very interesting because his big deal, he didn't believe. He was so messed up, mentally ill, worrying about writing a second album. So this guy went universal, he went off the charts, he went viral with his first album, right? He went from nobody, and I mean nobody, to somebody. In other words, he was living in Scotland, he was playing little pubs, and he was irrelevant in the music world. Well, then all of a sudden, one of his videos of him singing, super talented guy, goes viral, and the rest is history. Next thing you know, he's got an album, they produce an album, he's got millions of dollars, millions of fans, he's on a world tour, and he's got, a handful of the top songs for that first year. So the difference in his life is like the thermostat being at 41 and then 101. Literally 101 overnight. So what do you think that does to a young person like that? He's used to being an ordinary fella, his thermostat's at 41 degrees, he's chill, he hangs out at the pub with his guys, he sings at night, and boom, all of a sudden he's an international celebrity, living the dream that he always wanted. Well, that was cool for the year, but now the puppet masters say, when's the next album? When's the next album? And you hear them calling him on the phone in these Zoom chats. And this was happening during the China virus, where he returned home to Scotland and he'd write in this shed behind his parents' house. So everybody around him is changing. He's not changing as much as everybody around him is changing. You hear lottery winners, people that win $40 million or $20 million, and they talk about how they changed a little, but everybody around them now changes a lot. How they treat them, how they view them, and that's the biggest change, right? The rubber band effect. So he's trying to write this second album, and he's just knocking his head against the wall. He's like, what happens if I can't follow this up? What happens if I was a one-time wonder? What happens if I was lucky? And that's the rubber band effect. That's him and his mind and his soul trying to go back to where it's comfortable. Well, where was it comfortable? It was comfortable at 41 degrees, right? Before he was famous, before he was an international phenom. So he's trying to go back from 101 to 42 as an example. And his subconscious is doing everything it can to make that happen. So it's interesting because Adele also talked about this when she was writing and creating her second album. How do you follow up a record-setting album? Adele was the same thing. She went from a nobody. She went from the outhouse to the penthouse in 1 year. Same thing with Lewis, from the outhouse to the penthouse. And Adele went through the same imposter syndrome, the same rubber band effect. They return home and they're like, how the hell do I write a second act? How do I show up even better than before? So it's fascinating because there's a handful of things that they did, and both of them followed up with stellar second editions. I mean, Lewis kicked ass, is kicking ass with his writing sense, his song sense, and Adele broke her original record sales, which, I mean, just even amazed her. But man, oh man, they battle self-image, they battle self-esteem, and there's this constant gravitational pull for you and me to always return to who we were. So if you're committed to being a high performance person, if you're committed to constant and never-ending improvement, you have to understand that the world will conspire against you, okay? Your own self-image, your self-esteem will conspire against yourself. And thirdly, you need to fight this gravitational pull, this rubber band effect, this imposter syndrome every damn day. This is why I have read books and physical newsletters for anywhere from an hour to 5 hours. This is why I have been a learning machine for the last 20 years as a hockey coach, as an insurance agent, as a husband, as a father, because I understand that my mind, my soul is trying to return me every day to my comfort zone. It wants to put me back where I was at 30 degrees or 40 degrees. And here's something that my mentor, the great Wayne Maxner, told me when he was mentoring me in pro and amateur hockey. He said, Michael, get this through your head. Start reading all the time. Read about great coaches, read drill books, read mental toughness books, visualize it. Read. Be a learning machine, like Charlie Munger said. Because your subconscious, your self-esteem is always going to try and pull you back to where you were. So if you're not automatically working to grow every day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365, if you're not growing, you're receding. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And he used to preach that to our players my first year when I was his assistant coach in minor pro. He was like, if we're not getting better today, we're getting worse. You don't get better in a specific practice or in the weight room or in the video room, then you're automatically getting worse. That's the rubber band effect. And everybody is susceptible to imposter syndrome. So the 2 insider pro secrets I'll give you today to fighting imposter syndrome, it is the enemy within. We don't have to worry about competition. When you look in the mirror, there's your best and worst enemy. You, the man or woman in the glass. That's your only competition. When you brush your teeth in the morning, look at that person every day for 30 seconds and remind yourself that's your only competition. That's the only person that's going to make you rich, wealthy, healthy, happy, you name it, whatever your goals and dreams are. Nobody else is coming to save us. Nobody else is coming to help. But the 2 things that have made the most impact on me battling imposter syndrome and coaching, the rubber band effect, I'm like, I don't belong in pro coaching. I never played pro hockey. I don't belong at this level. The insurance business, I'm not a gifted entrepreneur like my dad. I don't belong here. I don't deserve to make 6 figures. I've never made more than 30, 40 grand in my life. I don't deserve to make $1 million a year, 7 figures. That's for other people. I'm not a guy who goes to the gym every day. I'm not a guy that weighs this certain amount. I'm not an author. I'm not a person who would write a book. These are all the things that all of us battle. The imposter syndrome, the man in the glass, the woman in the glass. And these are the 2 things that have mattered the most to me. And I just said one of them, constant and never-ending improvement. I can't take, I have both feet on the gas pedal, okay? For 20 plus years in coaching hockey, consulting, being an entrepreneur, now a husband, now a father, I don't have one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. When it comes to reading and studying and improving as a person, as a marketer, as a husband, as a father, as a coach, I got both feet on that fucking gas. And any time that I've stopped reading or stopped studying, boom, automatically my thermostat returns to its original comfort zone. I stop walking, I stop growing, I stop thinking, I stop eating clean, I stop exercising, all of this stuff. So I've made a commitment over the last 2 decades to CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. Hell, it's written on the sleeve of my golf shirts. CANI, CANI, constant and never-ending improvement. When I'm growing and I'm helping other people, I feel purposeful, I feel incredibly happy, I feel like I'm serving my queen and my daughter and my clients. But that's how I fight the rubber band effect. Self-esteem, self-image is to constantly be growing it. Reading great books, reading autobiographies, biographies, reading print newsletters, reading articles, magazines. I'm constantly building my self-image. I'm constantly building my self-esteem. I'm consistently building my confidence so that I'm constantly fighting that rubber band effect, and I'm actually increasing my thermostat. If I'm at an 83, I want to get to 85. If I'm at an 85, I want to get to a 90. If I'm at a 90, I want to get to 95. So serious daily study. The other thing, the second thing, the insider pro tip that's had the most impact with imposter syndrome, with the rubber band effect. I didn't think I deserved to be in those rooms or making that kind of money or coaching pro hockey or any of that stuff. It's a second thing is association. The power of the people that you hang out with. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. That's true for everyday life. But I got involved in masterminds with Bill Glazier and Dan Kennedy, $30,000, 15 years ago. And at the time I was like, I'm gonna have to pay this on my credit card. I don't belong in that room with Russell Brunson. I don't belong in that room with Bill Glazier. I don't belong in that room with Beth Davis. I don't belong in that room with those 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. And when I finally got the hell out of my way and I decided that I'm a thermostat, not a fucking thermometer, I said, I'm gonna push myself out of my comfort zone. I'm gonna sign up, I'm gonna go all in. And the more you pay, the more you pay attention. And it was the first time in my life that I went from 6 figures to 7 figures. How did I do it? I started hanging around people who made 7 and 8 figures. It was not happening before that. My insurance consulting, I was making a little bit of money, not worth the effort. My insurance business was doing good, not great. And then I started hanging around people that made 10 million, 40 million, $70 million a year. And it wasn't long, 6 months to 12 months later, where I was for the first time in my life, a 7-figure $1 million earner. And my wife predicted it. She says, you're never, ever, ever going to be rich or wealthy till you start hanging out with people that are rich and wealthy. You're never going to be fit until you start hanging out with people that are fit. You're never going to be a good copywriter until you hang out with people that are good copywriters. And she was right. Just the immersion in that room with Bill Glazier and Dan Kennedy and Russell Brunson and Michael Cage and Beth Davis, and you just go down the list. And I was like the weakest person in that room, right? Which is the perfect situation to be in. I was like, wow, I don't think I should be in this room, but fuck it, I'm here. So I'm gonna do my best. That's the year I won GKIC Marketer of the Year. That's the year I went from 400 grand to $1.3 million, then $1.2 million, then $1.4 million. And it was all those things, those 2 things of constant and never-ending improvement, reading, being a learning machine, and secondly, the power of association and environment. I got in those rooms that I needed. I invested more money than I had, and I went all in. I burned the ships. I burned the ships and I went all in on learning the skills and getting around the people who were living the business life that I wanted. And it worked like a charm. And to this day, 20 years later, 21 years later, this morning I read for 2 hours straight. I have my big cup of coffee out by the pool, and today I just put 2 feet on the gas pedal and I read newsletters that were copywriting, email, direct response. I wrote some peak performance stuff. I read stories about Adele, about Michael Jordan, sports stories, Nick Saban stories, just on and on. And after that, almost 2 hours of serious study this morning, taking notes, I have about 20 of those 3x5 recipe cards to share with you in videos, to share with you in future newsletters. The link is below, badassletter.com, to share in telegrams, faxes, emails, you name it. And that's what being a serious student and a learning machine looks like. I have average intelligence, I have average IQ, but I show up 365 days a year. That's how Lewis Capaldi did it. That's how Adele did it. And I'll never forget when we won the Barclay Cup in 2019 with my championship Perth Blue Wings hockey team. I was watching a video about defending a championship, which Nick Saban has done so many times as the head coach at Alabama. But Saban was talking about how you can't ever, ever, ever defend a championship. He said if you try to defend something, whether it's a championship, whether it's money, he says that's a scarcity mindset. That's a playing not to lose mindset. That's a playing defense mindset. And he said, anytime we did that at Alabama where we tried to defend our national title, he said we didn't. And he said the mindset shift went from playing to win, playing offense, swinging for the fences, to a losing mindset of scarcity, of playing not to lose, playing defense. And he goes, every single time we did that, we never, ever repeated as national champions. So I never forgot that video. And in 2020, my last year coaching the Perth Blue Wings and owning them, the very first message to our players, our athletes, our staff, was that we're not here to defend our Barclay Cup championship. It's a fucking complete reset. We're starting at ground zero. It's like an email list at zero. It's like winning a Super Bowl. Now we're starting at zero. It's like winning the World Series. We're starting at zero. It's like selling 10 million copies of a book and then you're starting at zero. And Saban said it best. He's like, you can't defend jack shit. You've got to have a mindset, every athlete, every coach, every coordinator, the owner like myself, that every day we earn it and we deserve it. Every day we earn it and we deserve it. We go to work. Massive, massive consistency. Kirby Smart talked about this in Georgia after, one of Saban's disciples. He talked about how the first 2 years when they were national titles in Georgia, he noticed the third season, they tried to defend their national title instead of earning it. And he saw hints of entitlement in the off-season training, hints of entitlement with his athletes. And as you know, last year, they didn't even get close to the national championship. And that's what Saban was talking about. When you can't defend any championship, whether in business, whether in life, whether in the gym, whether writing a book. Every day we got to get up and we got to kill our lunch. As salespeople, that's what my grandfather used to say. Get up every day and kill your lunch. Nothing is given. Nothing should be taken for granted. Every day the score is 0-0 when you get up and get that first win. Be the first up. Be the first person at the gym. Be the first person at work. Be the first person who's early. Be the first person who makes the phone call. Be the first person who brings in money. Be the first person who makes it rain. Be the best dressed. All that stuff. Every day, every hour, the score is what? 0-0. And Saban and Kirby and the guys will all tell you the same thing. Even though you should repeat, if you don't have a play offense, play to win, if you don't have that all in all the way every year, you're going to trip up and you're going to lose. If you're playing not to lose, if you're playing defense, if you're listening to the rat poison and taking the attaboys and the compliments and all that other stuff, it's not long. Like the great Fred Shiro said, two-time Hall of Fame Stanley Cup Philadelphia Flyers head coach Fred Shiro said, he said, you know, perfume and cologne. He said, it's great to be around. It's great to smell. Just don't swallow it. Entitlement, sloth, selfishness, that's all part of swallowing it. So that's how I deal with imposter syndrome. That's how I deal with the enemy within. That's how I deal with the rubber band effect. And that's how I deal with my self-esteem and self-image when I keep climbing the mountain, laying bricks, chipping away. And every day I'm pushing myself a little bit more out of my comfort zone. And if I don't keep reading and studying, if I'm not a voracious reader, if I don't have an insatiable appetite for peak performance, if I don't have an insatiable appetite for being a high performance person, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, then if I'm not getting better, like Max said, I'm automatically getting worse. So I'm pushing, learning, growing. And that's the best vaccination from the rubber band imposter syndrome. And what I say the second thing was, get around people that have already achieved what you want to achieve. Get around people who have achieved and are still achieving. Get in the room that makes you uncomfortable. Get in the room, hang around the people who not only have won at every level, but are still winning. And just the power of osmosis, the power of association, the power of environment. It'll literally magnetically pull you up to their level. Just like crabs in the bucket pull you down. Crabs in the bucket pull your children down. Crabs in the bucket pull your queen down. The opposite, when you read great books, great newsletters, and you hang around outstanding people, it's the opposite effect of crabs in the bucket. It literally is magnetic and they pull you up. They pull you up to the summit. That's the power of can I and the power of environment and association. Remember, it works for Adele, it worked for J.K. Rowling, it worked for Lewis, it worked for Nick Saban, it worked for Bill Belichick, works for Tom Brady, worked for Ronald Reagan, worked for Henry Ford, worked for Rush Limbaugh, just on and on. It's all about being a serious student, a high performance person every single day. And when your eyes open, no matter how well you're doing or how not well you're doing, the scoreboard is 0-0. Doesn't matter what the fans are doing, doesn't matter what the news says, doesn't matter what politics is going on or rat poison. All that matters is the scoreboard is 0-0. Earn it and deserve it every single day. As I said, you can subscribe to my newsletter below and I'll send you one of these cool Be Relentless t-shirts, $97 a month. That's chump change, that's a coffee a day. If you're serious about money and marriage and fitness and happiness, man, oh man, it's an automatic. But my print letter is for it's not for chumps, it's for champions. It's not for excuse makers and pretenders. My letter below, the link is below, badassletter.com. My monthly print newsletter is for kings, builders, lions, contenders, and badass champions. Not for excuse makers, do-nothings, and low testosterone poodles. If you're one of those guys, stay away. Link is below. Like my dad said on the phone last night, son, hang in there, the best is yet to come. He's 90 years old, young. The best is yet to come. Hang in there, the best is yet to come. And 2 words that changed my life and 2 words that can change your life. Every day the score is 0-0. Get to work. Be relentless.